In this episode, we sit down with Tarsus, the Bronx president of the Lease of Saints Motorcycle Club. This club started in 2008 in San Antonio, Texas, and found its way all the way to the East Coast by way of New York. And this is the full sit down, and we get into it on this episode of Demons Row TV. And oh yeah, we ghosting, baby. First and foremost, thanks for sitting down with me, Tarsus.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. What got you into, how was little Tarsus? We always talk about right now, but how was the younger Tarsus like that brought you to this level right now?
Younger Tarsus was the kid who used to take the playing cards with the old clothesline pins and clip them to the bicycle fender.
Oh, yeah?
And it would make that noise like we were on a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're probably a little bit past your time, I'm sure, before your time. But so, I was always kind of into that. My neighbor next door, he used to ride Harleys, so I would always watch him through the window and just kind of attracted to that lifestyle, motorcycles and things of that nature. And then I got my first bike seventh grade in school. And
wow, seventh grade?
Yeah.
So where are we? Are we in Queens? Where are we at? Where does this take place?
This is all in the Bronx.
Oh, in the Bronx?
Yeah,
okay.
all in the Bronx and Castle Hill Avenue in the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I ended up getting a motorcycle, a dirt bike. It was a Suzuki DS100. I still have it, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I had that, and I started riding. A dirt bike. Had my first major accident with it.
Wow.
Kind of fumbled over, hit the front brake.
So this is as a kid, young?
As a kid.
Oh,
as a
okay.
kid. Yeah, seventh grade. And then, I still continued riding for several years. High school played football, kind of put the bike to the side. And then after that, it was all ninjas after that.
What part of Castle Hill were you in the Bronx?
Over on by St. Raymond's Avenue and Glover Street.
I actually went to St. Raymond's for 1 year.
Did you?
Yeah. My mother scrapped up the money to get me to go there because I was getting in trouble. And then after that, it was downhill. St. Raymond's kept me straight, though. That was a good school.
Yeah, my parents, they kept me in parochial school.
How was it growing up over there? Because it's rough over there on Castle Hill.
It's, it was home. We were playing stickball in the street and Ringalivio and all these old games. And
Did you play Skelly?
Skelly?
Yeah.
Not really, not much.
I ask people about that, they never know what it is.
No, I know what it is, but we didn't really play it.
Let me ask you a question. Is stickball a Bronx thing? Is that were they doing that everywhere, or is that a Bronx thing?
It must be a Bronx thing, or at least New York City type thing.
New York City type thing, right?
We would get the broom handles, cut off the broom or mop part, and hit the little Spalding.
Yeah.
And man, some guys used to hit it for blocks.
Yeah.
You always had to keep a bucket of those because we'd always lose them.
Yeah.
Either down the sewer or what have you.
So what kind of parents did you have growing up out there?
Well, both my parents were immigrants from Italy. And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my father was a grinder.
Yeah.
Always working, so we didn't really see much of him. I mean, of course at night he would always come home, but he was there, and he was a kind of a tough taskmaster. Not during grammar school and stuff like that. I would have to go to work as a kid, because that's the way they grew up. They grew up on a farm, and as soon as you were old enough to do some work, you went and did it. So and that's what I did, but it was a good life. They taught you a sense of morality, and even though there were plenty of avenues later on in life where I could have got myself down the rabbit hole of trouble, for the most part I stayed out.
That's good. Growing up in Castle Hill, that was probably hard to do.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
There's always that peer pressure,
I think it's the parents too, having the two parents. The father is so crucial.
Absolutely.
I grew up with no father. I went through it all. you know? And I noticed, like, when you have a father, that little whisper in the ear or that little pull by the collar, you know, is like, it's crucial.
100%. 100%. You know, I remember as a kid vividly, we would go to work and we would go work on HPD buildings, housing preservation and development, which were mostly lower income, right? And I would be in the apartments, maybe painting walls or changing beams, floor beams, and I would just see these other families, the other kids, and maybe the father wasn't there, or maybe the parents were strung out and the kids like 5, 6, 7 years old, just kind of, and I would just say to myself, how's this kid got a chance, man?
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, because I talk to people that I grew up with, like kids now, they don't really go outside like that. Like in New York they do, but in a lot of other places, they're not really outside like that. What was the age you were when you first went outside? Because I was 4 years old on the block. I think about it now, like that's kind of crazy, but all the other kids were outside too. So when was the age where you first was outside?
I wouldn't say 4, but definitely 6, 7 years old, you know?
Yeah.
Probably 4 or 5 years old, I was in the driveway playing on the pile of sand that my father used to have for his cement mixing and all.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that was it. But it was different also in a sense. Maybe we weren't as alarmed about the danger. Quite possibly it was still there, but we were outside all day.
Yeah, I know. It was just natural for us to be outside. You felt like you was missing something, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, our parents had to scream for us to come home.
Yeah.
Now they scream to get them out the house.
Yeah, yeah. It's so different now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you another question.
Sure.
Because growing up in the Bronx, I never used to see motorcycle clubs. What was the first time you started being exposed to seeing an actual motorcycle club?
Yeah, so aside from, the individual that lived next door to me, my grandparents used to live on St. Peter's Avenue in the Bronx, right across the street from, at the time it was Westchester Square Hospital. And there was a little corner bar and my grandparents lived right above it, and we would hear the jukebox playing at night, and then you hear all the revving of the motors. You're like looking out the window, yo, what's that?
Yeah.
And just big scary guys would pull up and get off their bikes and go hang out in the bar and stuff like that, and you were, as a kid, you were mesmerized.
Yeah.
These were like the real life gladiators, so to speak. We always kind of got caught up in the wrestling at that time. Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, I'm the Hulk Hogan era.
You're the Hulk Hogan era. Yeah, that was a good era too.
Yeah,
I was more like Bob Backlund, Bruno Sammartino, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah,
But then you saw these guys who were real and personal, and you would think that they would have been nasty in their attitudes or what have you, but they were pretty friendly.
Yeah.
They were pretty friendly guys,
When you would see them around, did you get that, like, when I get older, I think I see myself doing something like that? Or was it way later when you started thinking like that?
It was way later, I mean, there was definitely an admiration that I had, probably the camaraderie. I was the only boy in the family, and I had older sisters, same as you. So, you always kind of have that desire, right, to be with other men. And so, so there was an admiration for sure. Of course, the bikes were awesome to look at.
Yeah.
And like I said, probably if they would have gotten nasty or a getaway kid, but they were really cool. And it was even confirmed growing up as one of my other cousins, a female, she started hanging out with a lot of bikers, and they were just always kind of, decent people, like as far as, friendliness, and as far as, of course, not always approachable because you may be intimidated by their look. Yeah. But always good people.
And that's what I love about the layers of the culture, because somebody will see you, and if they don't understand it, they're going to be intimidated. Big guy, you know what I mean? They don't know where your heart is at. So I love the different layers of the culture. Like, of course, you're going to hold it down as a man, but like everybody's not out there doing the same stuff. And that's why on my channel, like I try not to talk about a lot of the negativity, and people want me to talk about everything that's going on, but it's hard because it's like I actually see the people that are being talked about.
So after high school, you know, again, I was a football player. I did really well. We lost the final championship game to a rival school. And so none of the big schools were coming after us to give us any scholarships. And I just didn't want to play Division III. So I said, I'm not going to be somebody's donkey and then not get anything out of it. So that was the end of my football career. But for about a year or so, I went to a community college and studied basically construction, right? So
okay.
How to become a construction super. And I did that for about a year, and there was just a desire about me. I kind of grew up patriotic, of course.
So I have a lot of young people that watch Demons Row. My demographic is more like mid-20s to early 30s. I think what you just said is so important. You said you went to school for an actual tangible thing that you could do to make money. Absolutely. I feel a lot of people just go to college and have no plan. So what you did is actually giving you a foundation. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Well, I mean, part of the American nightmare, I would say, is telling all these kids that you need a college degree.
I agree.
Right? Putting them into debt. And of course, the government is, willing to loan you more money and put you into debt, and therefore the colleges and universities raise their tuition, and you have these kids coming out of school with $100,000, $200,000 in debt.
And then they're coming to you for a job, and they have no qualifications.
None.
It's crazy, you know.
It is nuts, and the funny thing is, if they would go out and they would learn some skills, welding, carpentry, cement work, they can make a darn good living.
Yeah.
Absolutely a good living, you know? And so, I would always recommend that kids go out there and test the waters, see what it is that you like and don't like, right? Everybody's always, I don't like that. Yo, go out there and test it some more and see exactly what it is. Because I wasn't sure if I was going to, work construction for my life.
Yeah.
I just, I thought a lot of the guys were miserable and mean. And a lot of them were, because that's all they had. They came to this country and they were laborers. You know? And they had a taskmaster who would crack the whip and basically treated them like donkeys, animals. And so, and it's funny because growing up in the Bronx and in the city, you could go one or two ways, man. You could either harden yourself, and I'm not just talking about the facade, because everybody has that facade of hardness, right? But you could either harden yourself, or you could open up your mind and try to understand people, have some not just compassion, but empathy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And try to understand where people are coming from.
Yeah.
And I think that was more the route I went. Mm-hmm. Again, just to tail back a little bit, growing up, I was the kid of immigrants, right? I was a kid who never had the sweat socks, but I was wearing black socks with my sneakers.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's a style.
It wasn't back then.
It wasn't back then. You were a nerd.
Yeah.
So I would get bullied a lot, growing up as a kid. And
do you think a lot of great men went through that?
Oh yeah.
I feel like it. Yeah.
I feel like today, with all the helicopter parents and the bubble wrapping of children, we've just raised a generation of weak people. And that could change, right?
Yeah.
If they deal with some adversity. But I think adversity, it's going to strengthen you. It doesn't. Some people, as take the wrong path.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a path where it's really hard to get out of. Like, I have a lot of admiration for you, because
Thank you.
Some people who've gone down that path weren't able to pull themselves
up
and out. you know, so.
I truly believe that if you haven't like ate some dirt, you can't really experience true joy and happiness, because like people like you and me that really have seen some adversity, we can appreciate when the good things come more, because we could think back on how shitty it was, you know?
Absolutely.
And it just, I look back at my life now and just life in general, and I'm like, I'm happy. I thank God that I went through all the stuff I went through. Like, I literally thank him. Like, I would have been soft. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get where I'm going if I didn't go through that boot camp, you know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, as we were talking about the military, you know, that's a boot camp that, like, God puts you through, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Now, don't forget, some people, they get broken, right? Not everybody makes it through boot camp.
Yeah.
But there's always, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But as long as you have blood in your heart and life, there's always an opportunity to change and grow.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe that 100%.
So tell me about the military, how you got into it, and what was that decision like?
Yeah, you know, so I finished my football career, and I just, of course, you love the teamwork, the camaraderie, and back in the days, it was, I think Reagan was president at the time. The country was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I grew up, and we had blacks, we had Hispanics, we had Irish, we had German. We were all hanging out.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody told us, I mean, obviously we knew, right? We were in high school, we know we have different backgrounds and stuff like that, but it was beautiful for me because I got to taste every kind of different culture.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And even in different races, there's different diversities of cultures within that race.
Yeah.
And so I was really pleased and thankful, and thank God that I grew up in New York City where I had that diverse culture.
Yeah.
Because you go out somewhere in middle America and they're just used to one or two types.
Yeah, they stay to their sides. Like when I go to Cali and stuff, they're like very sectioned off, you know?
Yeah, that's sad, you know? But times have changed. As much as I hate to admit it, with the country, I think there's a lot of race baiting, there's a lot of that. And it's all about keeping people divided. That's all it is. You know, there's a story. If you put red ants and black ants in a jar and leave them there, they'll just intermingle and won't do anything. But if you go and shake the jar, they start attacking each other.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of shaking of the jar right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and if you think about it, it all comes down to greed, power, money. And let's face it, politicians and certain corporations, they like that. They're making a ton of money. And out of all this separation. And it's sad. I really wish the people would come together, be more conscientious of what's going on.
I think people don't understand that we have a lot more power than is perceived. They have this mentality like these overlords control everything and we can never, you know, but the truth is like how you live your life, being your own businessman, that's how you do it. You know, you take your life in your control, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's a false illusion that they want to paint.
Yeah.
Right. I think the biggest chains that we have are the ones we put on ourselves.
I agree.
Right. And even as far as you said, well, having your own business. Yes, not everybody's cut out for that.
I agree.
But what everybody could be cut out for is be in charge of me incorporated.
Yeah.
Right. I'm Joe Smith or Joe Rodriguez, Jose Rodriguez, whatever my name is. I'm in charge of me.
Yeah.
How do I make me better, right?
Yeah.
How do I put out a better product, bring value to my employer, and that's how you move up the ranks. And so
I agree.
I never want to tell anybody you have to go this path or you have to go that path. Not everybody's cut out to be the CEO. There's a lot of sacrifices that they make.
Yeah.
So but you can still be successful how you define success.
And the CEO needs that person that makes a lot of money.
100%.
That's the backbone of the company, So you could be that person,
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. You know, the president has generals, and the generals have captains, and the captains have sergeants, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So before the MC, I went into the Marine Corps, right? Year, like I said, I went to college for about a year or so. Had a friend that we kind of went, he was a year older than me in high school, and we were friends, Italian kid, and he went into the Marine Corps and became a sniper. Yeah, so I was talking with him, I ran into him at college. We were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, man, you know," he's like, "It's all about trigonometry, sniper." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." So I said, "Oh man, I'm gonna sign up." I said, "I don't know if I'll be a sniper, but I always loved that the idea, the few, the proud, you know, and being distinguished." In a sense, right? Although every branch has their own distinctions and their own special forces or what have you. But so I signed up for the Marine Corps, and this was during Operation Desert Shield, and then it turned into Desert Storm while I was in boot camp. Never got sent over. It was a rather quick war.
Yeah.
But I did go for all the desert training and what have you. But it was so fast, and hey, that's the path God chose for me.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it. So I served my 3 years. I did 3 years rather than 4 in the Marine Corps, and then I was at the reserve unit in Fort Schuyler. There used to be a reserve unit there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and started riding bikes again. Started riding Ninjas.
Oh, okay.
You know? Yeah, Ninjas.
He's doing wheelies?
Yeah, of course. Of course, you know. Well, you know, here's the thing. There's a saying in the Marine Corps, the big guys come out a little bit smaller and the small guys come out a little bit bigger. You know, and I came out a little bit smaller, a little bit more slender, and probably in the best shape of my life. And so I just started riding. And I didn't really get into the MC world until later on in life.
So you did it the right way?
Probably. and we say that because when you're filled with that much testosterone and motorcycles and the attraction, you know, add alcohol or what have you, it could get a little crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you were just riding with friends and?
Just riding with friends, you know, just riding along with friends. We used to call them rice burners.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started going back to school after the Marine Corps. I said, let me go finish up. I want to finish up and get my associates. I went back to school, and one night I happened to be doing homework, and I got a phone call. Both my friends that I used to ride with, they got killed that night.
On the bike or
on
like
the bike,
in the street?
On the bike, on their motorcycle. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I hung up my bike for a while. You know, I just couldn't, I couldn't get past that. You know, they were really dear friends of mine.
That's rough.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of, I hung up the boots for a while, and I stayed away from motorcycles for a while, quite a while. I raised my family, raised my kids, and then you come around the age of 40-something, you're like, I miss riding.
Yeah.
Every spring you see the guys on the bikes, you're like, yo, man,
yeah.
I miss that. So I finally got back on the hog, started riding, and at this time, between the Marine Corps, my friends dying, living life, getting married, I kind of gave my life over to Christ, right? We were raised in a, you know, Roman Catholic.
Yeah, me too.
Which is a, you know, selective when you want to go to church and what have you. Most of the people went on the big holidays, like Christmas and Easter. But I really started getting into the Bible. I always read the Bible, mostly for just learning and wisdom and the Psalms and stuff like that. But I always had like this emptiness in me, you know. My first year of marriage, I spoke with my wife and I says, you know, I feel like I gotta do something. I gotta get into a church. We didn't do the traditional Roman Catholic baptizing the children.
Yeah.
Because it's you know, scripturally it's for adults, right? You have to be conscientious sin, right? You have to be conscientious of right and wrong. And children aren't conscientious of that. They're hungry, they cry.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
They have to be selfish, otherwise they would die.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not selfishness, it's survival.
Yeah.
So I really dived into the church and did my studies. I was born again, and my wife, she kind of understood it at the time. She wasn't born again. She didn't give her life over to Christ, but she went along with it. Mm-hmm. And then several struggles later, and we had a lot of struggles during our marriage. Not so much between the two of us, but a lot of it from the outside world.
Yeah.
So that really, we ended up running away together.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we ran to Florida.
Oh, okay.
We had our 2 boys. We ran down to Florida, and we were living life down there and really getting to know each other without so many people talking in the ears.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's. I would recommend anybody who gets married, take off for a year.
Yeah.
Don't even live life. Take off for a year and get to know each other better. But work brought me back up to New York. I was kind of separated with the family. The wife had friends who were going to. Actually, one was a preacher and his wife. And you know, the funny thing about Christians is like. You know, there's this facade or false image that Christians don't have fun, they're not funny people, they're very stiff, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, this preacher and his wife were some of the funniest people and really down to earth. So my wife started going to church with them, and she decided, hey, actually she calls me up one day, I'm up in New York working, hey, I found the church, I think you're gonna like it. And she became baptized down there. Our life turned around, we gave our life over to Christ. I moved out to Jersey. I called up a church one day, hey, is this the kind of Church of Christ that I know of? Yeah, this is it. The preacher back then was about 78, 80 years old, and he became one of my best friends. And he lived till about 94 years old. But we dived into it. I was working, going to church, raising a family, and just doing my thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things, you know, people think you go to a church, it's any different than being in a club. It's not. In some ways it is, in some ways there's certain things obviously we don't do in the church, but when you have that many people from different backgrounds, people with different personalities, there's always going to be some conflict.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think the difference is that when you're called to a higher power and there's an expectation of a behavior, even if you're wrong, to forgive, right? So I think that's the bit of a difference, right? Yet, being within the congregation, I love them dearly, there was always something kind of missing, because especially nowadays, we go to church here, we work over there, we live over here. Who really gets into our personal life?
Yeah.
You know, it's real easy to keep people at arm's length. And so I was really missing that brotherhood.
Yeah.
You know? And as much as I love the MC culture, I just, as a Christian, I just couldn't. join a regular MC,
Yeah.
in my mind. So I did a little searching around. There's a couple of them, Christian MCs. Spoke to one of the things with, we call it a disciple. In a club, it's called prospecting, right?
Yeah.
And the hang-around phase is so important, right? And you've spoken about this,
Yeah.
and many on the other channels have spoken about. Hang-around phase is really when you get to know people. It's probably one of the best phases,
Yeah.
where everybody's honest,
Yeah.
and you. The longer you do
Well, they're
it,
selling you, so.
True. Of course, in our club, we do it a little different. Our prospecting, we call it discipleship,
Yeah.
and we are a traditional MC. So we have protocols. We respect the culture. We respect the hierarchy. We don't claim any territory. We respect all clubs. But that discipleship period is really where we work on the man, create that brotherhood,
Yeah.
also help in growing as a Christian, right? Everybody comes in at different levels.
Yeah.
Some people have been Christian 20-something years, some people have been at 2 days.
Yeah.
But we work with them, and we start to create this bond and this brotherhood.
What if a person, I never asked someone in a Christian club this, but what if a person believes in God but doesn't necessarily go to church? Could he still be in a Christian club?
Well, when you look at the word Christian, and I believe it's in Corinth where people who believed in Christ were first called Christians, it's Christian, Christ, right? A follower of Christ. Mm-hmm. So you can't be in a Christian club if you're not a follower of Christ.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because there's a whole bunch of different religions.
Yeah, true.
Right? And they all profess to know God.
Mm-hmm.
But in the scriptures that we have, in the Bible that's been around for thousands of years, it says that Christ is the only way to heaven. Right? Faith in Him, and that's God's Son. Right? Now, you think about it, like as men, if we're going to have a son that's going to save the world, right? We're going to, probably in our minds, we're going to build up this warrior.
Yeah.
Right? Swords, shields, kind of like Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Kind of looking, right? Beautiful, and God didn't do that, right? Because to God, the wisdom of man is foolishness, right? He created a son that wasn't the best looking, was lowly, worked as a carpenter when he was younger, took our sins on, right? Wow, what does that mean? Well, look the way they treated him, right? He died for our sins. He was beaten, spat on, tortured. I mean, if you go look up things, videos on crucifixion, there's definitely easier ways to die.
Yeah.
It's long and it's torturous. And the Romans, the Italians, we perfected the art of crucifixion. And you think about that, all of that torture and everything that he went through. And
I kind of argue that it really wasn't the Romans, it was the other group that really threw Jesus on the hot plate.
There was a coalition.
Yeah.
There was a coalition. Well, you think about it, right? Because Pilate washed his hands. Yeah, but Pilate also had the power to say, no, I'm not doing it. And he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? So, funny thing is, if you look in the book of Acts, a lot of those Jewish members, right, who were there and pushing to crucify Christ, it says in the scripture that they were pierced to the heart. And they asked the apostles, what should we do? And the apostles said, each one of you confess your sins and be baptized and believe in Christ. So talk about transformation of a person.
Yeah.
How, one day they're calling for Christ's crucifixion, next day they're giving their life over to Christ. But to go back to my point, right? If man is going to save the world, we're going to create this warrior. And instead, God created a son who would take on all our sin. None of us is perfect, right? We all have different levels of sin. And he took all of that on in the crucifixion to give us all an opportunity so that we could be with him in heaven. Right? And that's by his raising from the dead is what conquered death. If he just died and wasn't raised, he was a great philosopher, but look what they did to him. Right?
Yeah.
But that's not the case because he rose from the dead. So that's why, I'm a Christian, and that's the path that I chose.
Mm-hmm.
We try to go out there and be supportive, right? Supportive of the MC culture. We obviously have, many of us love writing, we love Christ, and we love the culture. We love the people and the culture. Our motto is leading the lost to the cross.
Yeah.
So we go and we support in a sense of, if they're having a run or if they're having whatever, a get together. We even support motorcycle ministries, right, who are not traditional MCs.
What's the difference between a traditional MC, like a Christian traditional MC, and a motorcycle ministry? What is the difference between the two?
You have your motorcycle ministry, you have your riding club. They're all profess Christianity, but they're not a traditional MC.
Oh, okay.
So they may have officer positions, they're still organized,
Yeah.
but organized differently. We have a minimum time period before you could get a full patch.
Yeah.
You have to earn your patch. You have to put in the work, right? You have to go out on rides.
Yeah.
You have to go out there and be supportive of the community and do the good works and not just say the good works.
So like in a motorcycle ministry, it'd be easier to get in because it's more like, we love you here, get down with us.
Yeah, it is. And again, like we talked about people going on different paths. For some people,
Yeah,
that's the way.
I just like talking about the different layers of the culture because some people that join these MCs or join an outlaw club or something, they would have been better off if they just joined a motorcycle ministry or a traditional MC. So it's good to like show the young people there's different avenues that you can go. You don't have to go that way,
Absolutely. I think with the Christian MC, we're a little bit more rigid, and in the sense of obviously with our Christian faith, but also with the tenets of motorcycle club, right? People, the outside world often looks at motorcycle clubs like a bunch of rabble rousers, undisciplined, but people in clubs have more rules than people outside of clubs.
Yeah.
And we're the same way, right? There's certain things that I can't partake in while I'm in my cuts.
Yeah.
And so for many of us, some of us are military, some of us just thrive for that discipline. We get drawn to that MC.
How do you struggle with like the politics of being a president and then people like wanting your position and stuff like that? Because I seen a lot of that. Like a lot of VPs are now presidents, and I know that they did it in a dishonest way, like talking about my brothers' backs and stuff like that. So do you have those like fears sometimes as a president that people may be coming for your spot, or did you get lucky and get a real good group of brothers?
Well, I think in human nature, there's always insecurities.
Yeah.
And there's always desires. I happened to get this position by a brother who I love dearly, who moved up to the national level. And I was filled with insecurity. I was like, I don't know if I could do it. I was his secretary at the time.
Yeah.
And even though I had other leadership roles in my life, with the construction, running being the leader of a family,
Yeah.
right? I just wasn't sure. But the brothers were really, just gave me so much encouragement, and they had so much confidence. And we've come a long way. We've come a long way. We built, it's anything worthwhile is worth building, building properly, right? You got to have a good foundation, And we had a good foundation. Our brother who went to the Nationals held the club down for a long time without having those good building blocks around him. Yeah. He could have quit, and I often admired that about him. When he asked if I would become president, and the members showed that confidence that they wanted me to. That was my idea, to start building a good foundation.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing, building a good foundation, having discipline, making sure everybody plays their role. And that's an important aspect of it too. Everybody stays in their lane.
Yeah, it's important.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And quite frankly, I tell my men, I tell the members, the men, I wish we never had to wear these. It would be nice if we just didn't have to. But our culture says we do. And this year I'm president, next year I may not be. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever role, wherever God leads me.
Yeah.
And so my philosophy has always been to teach the next guy, right? Hey, I could go home on the way home tonight and get killed. Who's going to step up?
Yeah.
Right? So I want to be that example. I want to make sure that there's other leaders that are coming, and not just charismatic, not somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody, you got to have leadership values. You got to care for your people. Sometimes selfless, right? Oftentimes selfless, right?
It's very hard to find a president that's, selfless. It's hard,
It is, but I think that's kind of where the Christian walk also comes in, because it's you really have to be selfless.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have those morals, you have that moral standing to start with,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, going back to your original question, do I have those fears? No. The only fear I have is that I don't get completed what I like to get completed in my head before I go on to the next chapter in life.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hold it down for now, as long as the brothers will allow me.
Yeah.
And as long as I have their confidence. And when I don't, then it's time to do something else.
So you said that that the president became a national. So where are you guys located in different areas
So just to go back a little bit in our history, we were actually back in 2008 we were formed in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and 4 years later we had a chapter up here in New York. Without going into the number of chapters, but we are worldwide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've really been blessed and have grown. But that's our origination, San Antonio, Texas. And growing up in the Bronx, I'm sure you could appreciate it. There's some rough areas down there. But the founders were actually three brothers who had a rough life.
Yeah.
Gave their life over to Christ. They loved riding. They loved riding Harleys. They looked around, really couldn't find a MC that kind of matched up with them, and they went on this journey to go ahead and start Lease of Saints. If you notice, we have Ephesians 3:8, and it's a verse in the Bible that says, "To me, who's less than the least of saints, is this grace given so that I should go amongst the Gentiles and preach the unfathomable riches of Christ." So there's different versions of it, but basically there's a sense of humility that comes with that. Least of saints, right? When people think of saints, they're looking up there. Mm-hmm. Well, we're down here.
Yeah.
Right? That was the Apostle Paul's mindset. He had a sense of humility.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to serve. Right?
Yeah.
You have to have that sense of humility. In that verse, it says to go amongst the Gentiles, to go out into the world and preach Christ. The unfathomable, unsearchable, it's so thick and rich. After 20 years, I'm still learning about Christ.
Yeah.
You learn something every day when you read the Bible. And so that's our mission, to go out there, spread the gospel message of salvation. Of course, there's many different ways to do it. Toy drives, support, food drives, clothing drives, you name it. And this is really where a lot of the inter-ministries, the MMs, the RCs, the MCs come together.
Yeah.
And really support one another.
So do you have like a Christian set, or is it just like you guys just function with everybody? Is there like certain Christian clubs that you're cool with and you guys more function together, or do you function with everybody? Because I know I've seen your club at events and stuff like that. Yeah.
So there's for the most part, I would say you get along with everyone.
Yeah.
Right? If it's a Christian club or not, you get along with everybody, because you give respect, you get respect.
Yeah.
Right? I've yet to run into somebody from an outside, non-Christian club, let's say, whom I gave respect and looked at me funny. Never. It's never happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally speaking, we're cool with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, closing out, just tell me a little bit like what you would want people to know about your mission and the club and stuff like that, to close out.
Yeah, I guess I should have had an elevator pitch ready, right? I mean, primarily our mission is to spread the love of Christ and the message of salvation. We lead the lost to the cross.
Does Christ ride a Harley Davidson?
He rides something better.
Something better?
Because he
golden one. Golden one, right? Yeah, it's not a Harley, but it has the chopper look, and it's golden.
It's got the chopper look. It's got the chopper look, for sure.
It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.